Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
I love K-pop because they are, by far, I would say, the coolest version of our generation.
Bloomberg reporter Sohee Kim has been covering Korean pop, or K-pop, for nearly a decade as a journalist. But she's been a fan for much longer than that.
Yeah, literally, I grew up with K-pop.
Sohee vividly remembers her first K-pop obsession.
So it was 1997 when a trio girl band called SES came out of nowhere. I first discovered them from TV, and three pretty young teenage girl groups were singing and dancing on a song called I'm Your Girl. The song was mixed in a little bit of hip-hop and R&B produced by SM Entertainment, and it completely blew my mind. So I bought cassette tapes of their albums and gathered some of my friends to practice their dance routines and performed at school events, and that became my annual thing.
Recently, Sohee started noticing something unusual in the K-pop songs getting released. A lot of their lyrics were in English, not Korean. So she did what any Bloomberg journalist would do. She and her colleagues started collecting data. In this instance, they conducted a very fun-sounding survey. They analyzed every single K-pop song released since 1995. That included hits like BTS's Butter,
Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover,
and Blackpink's Kill This Love. And they found out something pretty surprising.
So almost half the K-pop songs released this year had a majority English lyrics, and this is the first time in K-pop's history, having a lot of English lyrics and English songs.
So he says that this push into English hasn't been an accident.
And having more English lyrics is becoming a new norm for Korean idol groups, because their songs are actively drawing more audiences, not only in the US, but in some regions in Southeast Asia, where a lot of K-pop content like dance challenges become viral on TikTok and YouTube, and most of them are using English as a main tool.
But if you take out the Korean, you're left with a glaring question. What's K-pop without the K? Today on the show, after years of meteoric growth, K-pop is at a crossroads. Can the genre grow its international audience without losing the key components that made it a global phenomenon in the first place? I'm Sarah Holder, and this is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. So today, Sohee, what does the K-pop industry look like? Who are the key main players that we need to know before we understand this world?
So there are so-called four big companies: SM, HYBE, YG, and JYP. SM is known as the pioneer of K-pop, which was established 3 decades ago. HYBE, the agency behind BTS, is the youngest one, but the biggest in terms of the market value. And YG is the management company behind Blackpink, and JYP is the agency behind Twice and Stray Kids.
And what's the size of the K-pop industry? How much money does it make?
The size of the K-pop industry is estimated to be about $10 billion, according to Korea Creative Content Agency. And the amount of the K-pop export was about $1 billion last year.
Exporting K-pop has been a pretty good business. Bloomberg reporters spoke to fans in Los Angeles outside of a concert for the K-pop band Rise, who said they spent thousands of dollars a year on merchandise, concert tickets, and special events where they could meet members of their favorite groups.
Probably a $6,000 budget, maybe, if not more, depending on how many concerts I go to.
I mean, just think about this trip, the ticket, flight, and everything, maybe $500 maybe each, just for today.
For me, I would say maybe 2,000 to 3,000.
And this is not something unusual for K-pop fans. We will see a lot of K-pop fans who are based in LA or Latin America or France, or who want to travel more to follow their biggest artists.
What do fans say about why they love K-pop so much?
Well, I would say K-pop is total like package of modern arts. It's not just about songs. There are fashion, computer graphic designs in their music videos and futuristic style and the sounds, which all comes together. But what makes fans feel more connected to their stars and K-pop groups, I think it's song's message and the K-pop stars' attitude toward fans. K-pop artists are trained how to use social media and how not to disappoint fans who believe in them.
But the global fan base for groups like Rise, BTS, and Blackpink are, in some ways, the exception, says Sohee.
K-pop's largest consumer country is still South Korea, and the 50 million population is shrinking and aging faster than any places in the world. So the core consumer group, teens to early 20s, will be downsizing for the next decade.
And an aging South Korean population isn't the only recent challenge for the industry. South Korea's decision to allow a U.S. missile defense system to be installed in the country has led to tensions with the Chinese government. And that's impacting Chinese fans.
That prompted some sort of like boycotts and a ban over K-pop bands in China. There was no like official statement from China that they are going to ban the K-pop industry. Like suddenly K-pop groups and K-pop companies couldn't arrange any events and concerts in mainland China.
All of this might have been part of the reason why sales of physical K-pop albums to China have plummeted this year.
There are a lot of like hypothetical theses around that, but there is no like a certain or clear answer for that. But first of all, like Chinese consumers, they would still want to buy K-pop albums for sure, but there has been a rumor that Chinese wholesalers stopped buying or stopped ordering bulk sales because of some sort of like measures that Chinese government has made.
And that's why today, despite the passionate fans and the billions in revenue, K-pop has arrived at this crossroads.
Obviously, in order to make a lot of money, K-pop needs to transform their business model to make a sustainable growth for the next decade and reach out to a wider fan base. So it's K-pop's mission to reach out to a bigger global market for a survival plan.
To do that, some of the industry's biggest players are arguing for a radical transformation.
So HYBE founder Bang Si-hyuk, he's declaring it's time to take the K out of K-pop.
Coming up after the break, how K-pop is reinventing itself and why this is causing something of an identity crisis for the industry. One way for K-pop groups to appeal to a more global audience is to release songs with more English lyrics, which is something Bloomberg reporter Sohee Kim and her colleagues have confirmed is already happening. Another strategy is for existing big-name K-pop groups to team up with some familiar names in the international pop community.
For example, BTS Jungkook's latest album was produced by Scooter Braun and executives and producers in LA. And Lisa from Blackpink, she worked with Sony Entertainment's RCA. She released a new song called The Rockstar. She invited a lot of like Thai talent and creators and musicians to get involved in her project. So it's a multinational collaboration that can't be just call it as a Korean pop.
But K-pop companies are also launching new groups from scratch, using their tried-and-true formula for recruiting, molding, and debuting talent.
The core process hasn't changed, but there are more auditions worldwide, language lessons during training period, and tons of digital marketing to promote the groups globally from the get-go.
Getting these groups concert-ready is time-consuming and expensive.
It typically costs about like $3 to $5 million to create an idol group, but there are some cases that the costs exceed $10 million these days.
Sohee got to meet one of Korea's most promising next-generation K-pop groups last month at SM Entertainment's headquarters in Seoul. The band is called Rise, They're the ones those fans in LA were lining up to see.
The boy band is the latest idol group created by SM Entertainment. Their music was based on like house music produced by creators based in US and Europe. And they also got trained by Western hip-hop choreographers for new songs. So that resonates more with general audiences, but at the same time, they kept the core value of K-pop, such as empowering messages, emotional sounds, and fandom communication. So they look very fresh, but something very familiar to K-pop fans.
Meanwhile, HYBE, the label behind BTS, is trying something even more experimental with an all-girl K-pop group called Cat's Eye. They released their first single, called Debut, on YouTube and on the group's website a little over 3 weeks ago.
I don't need no 1, 2, 3, not bourgeoisie, I'll step in. Know just how to make a scene, just me, myself, my
As you can hear, their lyrics are in English, but that's not the only thing that's different about the group.
So among the members, there's just only one Korean member. And their main stage is not Seoul or South Korea. Their main stage is now US and Hollywood in LA.
Cat's Eye's debut video has already been viewed over 3.7 million times. Even with those numbers, Sohee says that doesn't necessarily mean the group is going to take the world by storm.
It's early to say whether they will be successful, but definitely it's a very new thing for the K-pop industry because it's a total collaboration with the US record label to create a idol group.
But with only one Korean member, mostly English lyrics, and an American home base, I asked Sohee, what makes Cat's Eye K-pop at all? It's the question that's at the heart of this new era for K-pop.
Yeah, it's a billion-dollar question. Denying or abandoning K or Koreanness could be risky if the new groups fail to appeal to both of K-pop fans and general music audiences. But if any new projects find a magical way to keep the value of K-pop and make a global appeal, I'm pretty sure they will rewrite the pop history.
For the fans Bloomberg spoke to outside of that Rise concert in LA, the embrace of English lyrics in K-pop got a mixed review.
And the vibe it's giving me, it is kind of hit or miss. I do somewhat like all the Korean K-pop English songs. I just do prefer the Korean ones just because that's where they're rooted, that's where the culture is, that's what they should be.
I like to be able to sing the words out, but it doesn't matter like what language it is, as long as it has like a message and a meaning.
I like them. A lot of people dislike them, but if the music's good, the music's good. They're easier for me to sing along to, so I like them.
Sohee says it's too early to tell if K-pop's new strategy will lead to the next BTS. But the industry is setting its sights even higher.
Attending like Coachella is not enough for them at all. So they want to go stadium tour like the size of Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Coldplay. Their dream now is to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show.
A Blackpink BTS Super Bowl show? Could be dynamite. That's it for this episode of The Big Take from Bloomberg News. I'm Sarah Holder. This episode was produced by Thomas Liu and Alex Sugiura, who also mixed this episode. It was edited by Stacey Vanek-Smith. It was fact-checked by Naomi Ng and Thomas Liu. There was additional reporting by Jin Woo and Jeremy Lin. Our senior producers are Naomi Shavin and Kim Gittleson. Our senior editor is Elizabeth Ponso. Nicole Beamsterboer is our executive producer. Sage Bauman is Bloomberg's head of podcasts. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe and review The Big Take wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find the show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Monday.